Let's dive into poses for your upper body mobility that can help prepare your body for birth. Now you might be thinking, what does the upper body have to do with preparing for birth? So let's just think about how your diaphragm and your ribs can affect your pelvis and pelvic floor. So I know you're probably thinking, birth's all about down here. What's this have to do with up here? So when the rib cage is either flared forward or pulled back, that can affect the diaphragmatic function. So we'll back up. So your diaphragm is this dome-like muscle that when you inhale, it contracts and draws down, and everything between your diaphragm and your pelvic floor gently get pushed to the pelvic floor, and the pelvic floor gets a stretch. And then when you exhale and your diaphragm domes, the pelvic floor lifts. So when the diaphragm and pelvic floor work together, your pelvic floor gets its full extension and natural retraction. So now let's think about your ribs. So if the ribs are popped forward, that means the diaphragm is going to go a little bit more forward, and the back of your pelvic floor is not going to get that stretch, that pressure, because a lot of the force is going forward into the front of the belly. And that can cause some tension in the pelvic floor. Now, we also know that during pregnancy, as the breasts get bigger, the shoulders tend to round in, or sometimes we get tight and the ribs tend to flare out. So that's going to lead to the rib cage either going forward or back and cramp down. So let's look at a few upper body mobility poses so that we can have the pelvis and ribs nicely stacked and in good relationship, so that the psoas muscle, this muscle that runs from behind T12 down under the uterus and in front towards the top of your thigh bone, that gets nice and supple, and your pelvic floor gets nice and supple. So you can start these poses at any time in preparation for your birth. So the first one we're going to do, I'm going to use a strap. So I've got just a simple TheraBand. So you grab that as a TheraBand or a yoga strap or the tie of a bathrobe, anything that you want. And we're just going to simply bring your arms up and then start to bring your arms back. Now immediately I just noticed I need a little bit more distance here. So when we bring the arms back, two things. We don't want the elbows to bend, and I don't want my ribs to flare out. So I'm just going to take this as far back as I can, keeping my arms straight and my ribs stacked on top of my pelvis. So just notice for yourself if you have a tendency for one arm to, I can clearly see one arm on my body is working differently than the other. So that's one of my favorite, little shoulder flossing here. Next, I'm going to use the strap and bring it around my bottom of my ribs and give it a little pull. So this is called 360 breathing, and I like having the strap around my ribs so that when I inhale, I can feel my rib cage expand into the strap. So we're thinking the 360 degrees of your rib cage. So just try this. Take your strap, bring it around your lower ribs, and take an inhale. And notice, can you feel not just the front ribs, but can you feel your side and back ribs get some expansion? So we inhale, we get that expansion, and when we exhale, we can feel the strap have a little bit of slack. It's one of my favorite. I feel like this is the answer for so much, for your nervous system, for your psoas muscle, for simple breathing, getting into the pelvic floor, getting into your back ribs. It's really one of my go-to for pretty much everything. So that's 360 breathing. All right, the next one, it's going to be a simple side stretch to get breath into the sides, and a cactus arm. So cactus arms are when the elbows come out, kind of like a cactus. And then I add that throughout all sorts of poses in class. So we're going to do it in a side stretch. So start by simply reaching your arms up, grounding your hips, making sure your pelvis and ribs are stacked. And then bring one arm to the side, soften your shoulder. And then as you anchor your hip, so I'm really thinking of this hip dropping down, and then I'm shooting energy all the way up. And a lot of folks, when the shoulders are tight, we tend to bend the elbow. So you can try taking your palm down and then sweeping the arm over and see if that helps reach through the elbow. Good. Now, just imagine you have a warm, welcoming hand at your side ribs that you're breathing into. Good. Now we can add a little cactus arm. So draw the elbow back, open your chest. And then as you exhale, turn your chest to the floor and think from your back ribs to your fingernails you're extending. And then you can inhale, open the armpit chest. And then take your chest down and stretch all the way out. One more time. Inhale, open. Good. Exhale and stretch. Good. And then bring yourself up. Let's just get the other side in. So ground your hips. Reach your arm over. If you have tight shoulders, try having your palm down and then sweeping the arm over. Relax your shoulder and ground through the hip. And then let's add that cactus arm. Inhaling the elbow back. Exhale, reaching forward. 2 more times. Inhale, open the armpit chest. And then exhale and reach. Last time. Inhale, open. And exhale, reach. Good. So that gave us some side and back rib opening that we need those back ribs to have some expansion. So again, that diaphragm can drop. All right, my next, I think last one right now, is going to be using yoga blocks. I've seen people do this with their elbows on chairs, on dressers, any place that you want to put your elbows, but I'm going to use my yoga blocks. So let's get on all fours. So from here, I'm going to walk my blocks forward and then extend my arms out. Good, now what we want to try not to do is round or overly arch. And I have a nice wide knee child's pose so my torso can drop down. And then I'm just simply reaching the arms out. And then if you'd like, you can bring your hands in prayer and reach your fingertips back. Now I have to resist really sinking into my back. So I'm going to try to maintain a nice long spine. And it gives me some great shoulder opening and side rib expansion. And that's a great one for getting into all the side seam of the body. And again, getting those back ribs to breathe so that your diaphragm can drop. And then again, as the diaphragm drops, we get that full expansion, good for your nervous system, great for your pelvic floor. So those are some of my favorite poses for preparing your body for birth, the upper body mobility edition.